if you're watching this, it means I broke the rule I swore I'd never break. I told myself I'd carry the secret to my grave, that silence was the only thing keeping me safe. But silence eats you alive. And after everything I've seen, I'm already half dead. Maybe talking about it will buy me a few more nights of sleep. Or maybe it will kill me faster. Either way, I'm done pretending I can keep it locked away. What I'm about to tell you isn't a story. Not in the way you're used to hearing stories. It's not a campfire tale. It's not some internet rumor. It's what happened to me, and it's the reason I can't look at mirrors anymore. It's the reason I haven't slept in my own bed in months. I know how that sounds dramatic, paranoid, maybe even pathetic. I used to think the same thing when I stumbled across posts like this. But the people who laughed, who rolled their eyes, who clicked away, they didn't live long enough to warn anyone else. The night it started was supposed to be ordinary. That's the part that still knots my stomach, how normal it all seemed. My apartment was quiet, the hum of the fridge leaking into the silence, a glass of cheap whiskey sweating on the counter. I had Netflix playing something I wasn't really watching, just background noise to make me feel less alone. There was nothing unusual, no omen, no shadow creeping under the door. Just me, the glow of the screen, and the stubborn comfort of routine. And then it happened. The thing that no one survives long enough to explain. I saw it just for a second, just enough for my brain to reject it. Shove it aside. Pretend it hadn't happened. I told myself it was a trick of the light. Exhaustion. Whiskey. Anything. But real. But it was real. And I can prove it. Because I'm the only one still breathing who can describe it. You're probably asking yourself why I'm doing this now. Why risk breaking the rule? The answer is simple. I'm tired of waiting. Every night since then has been a countdown. A slow, deliberate scrape of time against my nerves. I know it's coming back. I don't know when, but it will. And when it does, I want someone, anyone, to know the truth. I'm not naive. I know some of you will dismiss this. Call me insane. Click away. That's fine. But for the ones who stay, who listen, who can feel the chill in my words the way I felt it in my bones, pay attention. Because what I'm about to share with you is the thing nobody else survived to talk about. And when it happens to you, maybe you'll recognize the signs before it's too late. It all began on the night I made the worst mistake of my life. Let me take you back to where it started, before I understood the rules, before I knew the cost of breaking them. People always say you never see it coming, that the moment your life tilts off balance, you don't recognize it until the ground is already gone from under you. Looking back, I realized that's not true. There were signs. Tiny fractures in the glass of my daily routine. Cracks I ignored because I was too comfortable in the monotony. Too stupid, maybe. At the time, my life could be summed up in one word: predictable. I lived in a small town you've never heard of. The kind of place where nothing happens except Walmart closing early on Sundays and the diner recycling the same 5 specials every week. I worked a dead-end job at a copy shop that smelled like toner and old carpet. Most of my paycheck went to rent for a 1-bedroom apartment above a laundromat, where the machines never stopped rattling, and the smell of detergent clung to everything I owned. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable, or at least it felt that way. I used to joke that my life was a bad sitcom without a laugh track. Wake up at 8, eat cereal straight from the box, drag myself to the shop, smile at customers who never remembered my name. Lunch was usually a gas station sandwich eaten in my car, parked under the one tree that offered shade in the lot. After work, I'd sink into my couch, scrolling forums and watching horror videos until my eyes blurred. Irony, right? I consumed fear like candy, never thinking it would bleed into my reality. There was a woman who came into the shop every Tuesday, always around 3. Gray hair, bright red lipstick, a purse that jingled like it was full of coins. She'd get 50 copies of the same church flyer and chat with me while the machine spit them out. Harmless, right? But she always ended with the same phrase, the same exact words: "See you next week, if the Lord allows." I laughed it off back then, thought it was her quirky old lady sign-off. I should have noticed the pattern sooner. Then there was my neighbor, Marcus. He lived across the hall and worked nights, so we only saw each other in passing. We'd exchange quick greetings, sometimes small talk. Once, when I asked how his shift was, he shrugged and said, "Better than the alternative." I didn't ask what he meant because who does? Now I wish I had. Even my online life, the one place I felt more alive than anywhere else, had started to twist in small ways. Posts disappearing seconds after I clicked them, threads about local legends vanishing without explanation. A username I didn't recognize kept replying to my comments with a single word, wait. I thought it was a troll. Maybe it was, or maybe it wasn't. It's funny how easily you can ignore red flags when they don't fit into the story you've built about yourself. I told myself I was fine. Bored, maybe, but safe. I filled the silence with music, shows, pointless chatter, anything to drown out the gnawing sense that something was shifting just beyond my line of sight. One night, Marcus knocked on my door, something he'd never done before. He looked pale, jittery, like he'd run up the stairs. "Hey," he said, "did you hear it?" "Hear what?" I asked, pulling my hoodie tighter. He shook his head quickly, too quickly. "Never mind. Forget I said anything." And then he left, just like that. I didn't chase him down. I didn't ask questions, because I didn't want to know. That's the thing about normalcy. It lulls you, softens you, convinces you that everything strange can be explained. A weird neighbor, a cryptic phrase, a disappearing post, random, disconnected events. Nothing to worry about. I believed that until the night the static started. It came just after midnight, buzzing faintly from the corner of my room. At first, I thought it was the old radio on the shelf, though I hadn't touched it in months. But when I unplugged it, the sound didn't stop. It was in the walls, the floor, the air itself, like a swarm of insects trapped just out of sight. That was the first crack I couldn't ignore. It wasn't supposed to exist, but I saw it. The static had been hissing in the background for 3 nights, growing louder each time. At first, I brushed it off old wiring, maybe interference from the laundromat downstairs. My building was ancient, and the landlord's idea of maintenance was slapping duct tape over anything that leaked. But by the 4th night, the sound wasn't just noise. It had a rhythm, like something breathing through the walls. I tried to sleep with headphones on, blasting white noise, but even then, I could feel it vibrating in my skull. I told myself it was stress, that my brain was finding patterns in nonsense. But that night, something shifted. I woke at 3:17 a.m. to silence. Not the normal kind, the heavy kind, like the world had been muted. The air was thick, my chest tight, as if I were holding my breath without meaning to. I sat up in bed, heart pounding. That's when I noticed the mirror. It stood in the corner, a cheap, full-length thing I'd bought at a thrift store months ago. Normally, it just reflected my messy room, unmade bed, pile of clothes, the dim orange glow of the street lamp outside my window. But that night, the reflection wasn't right. I should have seen myself sitting there, hair sticking up, eyes wide with fear. Instead, the glass showed me lying in bed, still asleep. My reflection's chest rose and fell steadily, a faint smile curling at its lips. I froze, staring at it, waiting for my mind to snap back into sense. Sleep paralysis, I thought. Hallucination. A trick of the light. Anything but real. But then the reflection's eyes opened, slowly, directly at me. I don't remember moving, but suddenly I was across the room, yanking the blanket off the mirror, dragging it against the wall. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I sat on the floor, knees pulled to my chest, staring at that covered rectangle like it might rip open. The next morning I told myself it had to be exhaustion. Too many late nights, too much caffeine. I laughed at myself, out loud, just to prove I could. But the laugh sounded brittle, wrong. I tried telling Marcus later that day. He was leaving for work, coffee thermos in hand, when I stopped him in the hall. "Hey," I said, voice shaky. "Weird question. Do you ever hear things? Like static?" He blinked at me, his expression unreadable. "Static? Yeah. And my mirror look? I know it sounds crazy, but I swear I saw—" Before I could finish, he cut me off. "Don't," he said sharply. Then softer, almost apologetic. "Don't talk about it." I stood there, stunned. "What do you mean?" He shook his head, eyes darting to the stairwell. "Just drop it, okay? Forget it." He left before I could press him further. Looking back, his reaction makes me wonder if he already knew. I tried to ignore it, tried to sink back into routine, But once you've seen something like that, there's no pretending. That night, I refused to sleep in the bedroom. I curled up on the couch, TV blaring, trying to drown out the silence. Around 2 in the morning, the power flickered, then cut out completely. The apartment sank into darkness. I sat frozen, clutching the remote like it was a weapon. And then, faintly, I heard the static again.